Welcome to today's deep dive. We're looking squarely at the AFT Dice Season 12 today. Specifically, the slate of games coming up for Round 3 on Monday, March 9th, 2026.
Right, which is always a really fascinating point in any season.
Exactly. Usually when you get to the third round, you're still in that, feeling out process. You're looking for patterns, but you're wary of small sample sizes.
Yeah, you don't overreact.
Right, you don't want to overreact. But looking at the data we have for this Monday, the narratives are already incredibly stark.
They really are. Round 3 is often that tipping point where early season jitters sort of turn into actual structural problems for the losing teams. And on the flip side, where a hot start gets pressure tested against reality.
And that is exactly the mission for this deep dive. We aren't just looking at the ladder. I mean, anyone can see that the Gold Coast Suns are first and St Kilda's last.
Right, that's just surface level.
Exactly. For all of you listening, we're taking a stack of sources today. We've got historical head-to-head records, venue-specific performance data, and current form lines. And we're going to see if we can find the hidden edges in these matchups.
The lens I really want to use for this discussion is this underlying tension between current momentum and historical precedents.
I like that.
Because you have several matches this round where the team flying high on the ladder is walking into a stadium or into a matchup that has historically just been a nightmare for them.
It's the classic immovable object versus unstoppable force scenario. Does a 2-start matter more than a 10-year losing streak at a specific round?
Exactly. So we're going to break this down into 4 categories for you. We'll look at the Titans. Those are the unbeaten teams facing off.
Always fun.
Then the statistical paradoxes, which are honestly my personal favorite because they completely defy logic.
They really do.
We'll hit the fortresses and finally wrap up with the Desperation Bowl at the bottom of the ladder.
Let's start right at the summit. The Clash of the Titans. We have Richmond hosting the Gold Coast Suns at the MCG.
This is the headline act. You really couldn't ask for a better setup this early in the season.
You look at the ladder, and it's impressive. Gold Coast is sitting in first place. 2 wins, 0 losses. And Richmond is right there in fourth place, also unbeaten at 2C. On paper, this is the best, playing the best.
Yeah, and if you were just betting on form, you'd probably back the Suns. I mean, they have the percentage, they have the momentum right now.
Sure.
But when you actually dig into the history books, the Suns have a statistical edge that most people completely miss.
Really? What are we looking at?
In their last 14 meetings, Gold Coast has won 8 of them. That is a 57.14% win rate against the Tigers.
Wow. Which is surprisingly high given Richmond's dominance in recent eras. I mean, you'd assume the Tigers would have the wood over them.
You definitely would. But the Suns match up really well against them. However, and this is the massive variable for Monday,
The venue.
the game is at the MCG.
And Richmond at the MCG is a completely different beast compared to Richmond anywhere else.
Precisely. Richmond treats the MCG like an absolute fortress. They hold a 52.17% win rate there, historically. They understand the width of the ground, the way the wind swirls, the way the ball moves.
It's their home.
It is. Now, compare that to the Gold Coast. When the Suns have to play at the MCG, their performance just drops off a cliff.
What do the actual numbers say for the Suns there?
They have only won 9 out of 21 matches at the G. That is a win rate of just 42.86%.
That is a significant differential. So you're talking about a team that wins nearly 60% of the time against this opponent generally, but drops to...
Barely 40%.
Right, barely 40% at this specific venue.
It completely neutralizes their head-to-head advantage. So the real question for Monday is whether the Suns' current form, that top-of-the-ladder confidence, is strong enough to break the MCG curse.
It's a huge test for them.
If they win this, it's a massive statement victory. If they lose, it's just history repeating itself.
Speaking of statement games, let's move to the other unbeaten clash. Geelong Cats versus Hawthorn at GMHBA Stadium.
Now, this is a tactically fascinating one. Hawthorn is second on the ladder, 2-0. They're traveling down to play Geelong, who are currently 7th with a 1-1 record.
Now, for you listening, you probably know that in this league, traveling to GMHBA Stadium is usually the end of the conversation.
Oh, absolutely.
Geelong is famous for that home ground advantage. The ground is narrow, it's oddly shaped, the crowd is incredibly hostile. Usually, visiting teams go there to die.
And the stats completely back that reputation up. Geelong has a 51.72% win rate at that venue. It is statistically one of the hardest road trips in the sport. However,
there's always a however with you.
There is. Hawthorn is the anomaly here.
In what way? Do they actually hold their own?
Most teams see their win percentage just plummet at GNHBA. Hawthorn doesn't. In the data we have, they've played there 6 times. 3 wins, 3 losses. A perfectly flat 50% record.
That is remarkable consistency for a visiting team down there. Usually you see numbers in the 30s or even 20s for visitors.
Exactly. It suggests that Hawthorn just isn't intimidated by the geometry of the ground or the atmosphere. They travel well down the highway. And when you look at the head-to-head history between these two, it is razor thin.
How close is it?
Hawthorn leads by a single game, 7 wins to Geelong's 6.
So you have a 7-6 historical split and a 3-3 venue split.
It is the closest matchup of the round, mathematically speaking. You have the fortress narrative of Geelong clashing against the one single team that seems entirely immune to it. Plus, Hawthorn is in better form right now.
Right, they're unbeaten.
Yeah, so if I'm a Geelong fan, I'm not relying on the home ground advantage nearly as much as I usually would.
It's going to be a grind, that one.
Yeah.
All right, let's shift gears to those statistical paradoxes you mentioned earlier. These are the games where the latter tells you one story, but the deep dive data tells you something completely contradictory.
The best example of this, hands down, is the Adelaide Crows versus the Western Bulldogs at the Adelaide Oval.
Because on the surface, this looks like a total mismatch. Adelaide is 3rd, undefeated. The Bulldogs are down in 17th, winless 0-2. You'd expect Adelaide to just walk all over them.
You really would. But if you are an Adelaide supporter listening to this matchup should terrify you. The Western Bulldogs are what we call a bogey team for the Crows.
Meaning they just have their number, no matter the form.
In a huge way.
Yeah.
Despite the Bulldogs being near the absolute bottom of the ladder right now, historically they dominate this matchup.
Dominating.
They have won 8 of the last 13 encounters. That is a 61.54% win rate against Adelaide.
Wow, that is huge. A 60+% win rate is true dominance.
Yeah.
Why do they match up so well?
Look, sometimes it's play style, sometimes it's just psychological. They get under their skin. But here is the paradox. While the Bulldogs love playing Adelaide, they absolutely hate playing at Adelaide.
The venue curse strikes again.
It does. Adelaide is formidable at the Adelaide Oval with a 52.89% win rate. The Bulldogs, when they travel to that specific ground, win less than 39% of the time.
Okay, let me get this straight. You have these 3 conflicting forces. 1, Adelaide is in great form. 2, the Bulldogs historically beat Adelaide. 3, the Bulldogs historically lose at the Adelaide Oval.
It's a complete mess of contradictions. The question is, can the Bulldogs tap into that bogey team energy to save their season?
You need it. They're 0-2.
They are desperate. Knowing that they historically beat this opponent might be the only confidence boost they have left in the tank right now.
Or the reality of the venue and their current poor form just crushes them anyway.
Exactly. It's a fascinating psychological test case for Monday.
There is another weird anomaly we need to talk about.
Okay.
The Carlton versus Brisbane Lions match at Marvel Stadium. You called this the tenant curiosity.
Yeah, this is one of those stats that makes you double-check the spreadsheet to make sure you didn't misread it. Carlton is the home team here. It's their home ground. Brisbane is the visitor.
Right. Pretty standard.
But the visitor, Brisbane, plays the venue significantly better than the host, Carlton.
How significant is the gap? Are we talking a few percentage points?
Brisbane wins 58.97% of their matches at Marvel Stadium.
Wow.
That is an elite record for any venue, let alone an away one. Carlton, whose actual home ground this is, only wins 49.26% of the time there.
That is bizarre. So the Lions walk into Carlton's house and are statistically more comfortable than the people who actually live there.
That's a great way to put it. It's likely due to the conditions. Marvel has a roof, it's a fast track. Brisbane is a very fast, high-scoring team. The conditions just suit their game style perfectly.
That makes sense.
And when you add in that Brisbane also holds the historical head-to-head advantage, winning 8 from 15 games, this really looks like a trap for Carlton.
And Carlton is 13th, Brisbane is 5th. Carlton desperately needs a win to stabilize their season, but they are effectively playing an away game at their own stadium.
That's the harsh reality. The home ground advantage is actually a visitor advantage in this specific context.
All right, let's move on to the sure things. Now, in sports, there's obviously no such thing as a lock, but looking at the fortresses and graveyards section of our data, some of these look pretty close to inevitable.
If you want to find a game where history is just screaming a result at you, look at the Sydney Swans versus North Melbourne at the SCG.
Now, looking at the ladder, these teams are neighbors right now. Sydney is 8th, North is 9th. Both have 1 win and 1 loss. It feels like it should be an even contest.
That is a complete mirage. The historical data here is one-sided to the point of being cruel.
Lay it on me.
Sydney has won 10 of their last 14 meetings against North Melbourne. That is a 71.43% win rate.
Over 70%. That is rare in a salary-capped league.
Extremely rare. It shows a fundamental structural mismatch in how these teams play against each other. But the real nail in the coffin is the venue. The SCG is a nightmare for North Melbourne.
It's a unique ground. Shorter, wider than most.
And North just hasn't figured it out. They have only won 1 out of 6 matches there in our data set.
1 out of 6.
That is a 16.67% win rate.
That's demoralizing.
It is. Conversely, Sydney wins nearly 59% of their games at the SCG. So you have a team that dominates the head-to-head, playing at a venue where they are dominant, against a team that historically cannot win there.
So if North Melbourne pulls this off...
It's the upset of the season so far. Easily.
We see a pretty similar story developing with the GWS Giants hosting Melbourne, don't we?
Yes, but with a fun twist regarding the latter. Melbourne is actually sitting quite high right now in 6th place. GWS is way down in 14th. So the casual fan expects Melbourne to win.
Right. The current form says Melbourne all day.
But the geography says GWS. This game is at Giants Stadium. GWS has a massive home field advantage, winning 56.67% of their games there. Melbourne, historically, just falls apart at this venue.
What are their numbers?
They have won only 2 of 7 matches there, a 28.57% win rate.
That's less than 1 in 3.
It is.
Rough.
And GWS also holds a slight edge in the head-to-head, winning 53% of the time. So even though Melbourne looks much better on the ladder right now, they are walking straight into a graveyard.
It really emphasizes for everyone listening that you cannot just look at the wins and losses column. You have to look at where those wins and losses happened.
Context is absolutely everything.
Let's head to the bottom of the ladder. We call this the Desperation Bowl. St Kilda versus Port Adelaide at Marvel Stadium.
The stakes here are fascinating because they aren't about winning a title or making a statement. They are purely about survival. St Kilda is 18th, dead last. Port Adelaide is 16th. Both teams are 0-2.
And in this league, starting 0-3 is essentially a death sentence for your finals hopes.
The statistics for teams making the finals after starting 0-3 are abysmal. It almost never happens. So Monday is a must-win in the most literal sense of the term. And the cruel part.
What's the cruel part?
The data suggests these teams are virtually inseparable.
How close are we talking?
Head-to-head, Port Adelaide leads 8 wins to 7. It's a single game difference over 15 matches.
And the venue. They're at Marvel.
St Kilda at Marvel Stadium wins exactly 50% of the time. Port Adelaide at Marvel Stadium wins 48.72% of the time.
Wow. So St Kilda has a tiny 1.2% advantage at the venue, and Port has a single game advantage in history.
It is a coin flip, a literal coin flip. This game won't be decided by tactical genius or sweeping historical trends because there aren't any. It's going to be decided by who panics less. You have 2 teams staring at the abyss of a 0-3 start. The pressure on every single kick, every goal is going to be immense.
It's high anxiety viewing. Now we have another dead heat in the middle of the pack involving Collingwood and the West Coast Eagles.
This is the momentum battle. West Coast is 10th, Collingwood 12th. Both are sitting at 1-1. And looking at their history, it is perfectly balanced.
You mean literally tied?
Literally tied. 14 games played in our data set, 7 wins for Collingwood, 7 wins for West Coast. 50-50 split.
You really rarely see that. So what breaks the deadlock here?
The MCG. Collingwood loves the MCG. They win 55.30% of their games there. West Coast, while they aren't terrible there, dropped down to 45.45%.
So that roughly 10% swing in venue performance is the only thing separating them.
It's the deciding factor. In a matchup this tight, you have to lean towards the team sleeping in their own beds.
Finally, let's touch on Essendon versus Fremantle at Marvel Stadium.
Essendon is 11th, hosting Fremantle, who are 15th and winless at 0-2.
So Fremantle's in that exact same desperate boat as St Kilda and Port Adelaide. They need a win immediately.
They do. And if you look at the history, they might actually feel confident. Fremantle leads the head-to-head 7 wins to 6 against Essendon.
So they have the edge on the opponent.
But they have a massive disadvantage with the ground. Fremantle is terrible at Marvel Stadium. They have a win rate of just 34.21%.
That is one of the lowest venue percentages we've discussed today.
It is. Compare that to Essendon, who wins 50.6% of their games at Marvel. So Fremantle has to overcome a massive venue complex just to get that first win. The history against Essendon is good, but the history at the stadium is awful.
So bringing this all together for round 3, we have titans clashing, we have paradoxes, and we have desperation. What is the big takeaway for the listener heading into Monday?
I think the meta-narrative for round 3 is the venue test. We are seeing so many matchups. Richmond and the Suns, GWS and Melbourne, Essendon and Fremantle, where the better team on paper, or even the better team historically, is facing a massive disadvantage purely because of where the game is being played.
It's a great reminder that these games aren't played on a spreadsheet. They are played on grass in different cities with different geometries and weather.
Exactly. If Gold Coast goes to the MCG and wins, or if the Bulldogs go to Adelaide Oval and win, those aren't just normal wins. Those are exorcisms. They are breaking long-term structural trends.
And for you watching at home, that's where the real drama lies. You aren't just rooting for your team to score more points. You're rooting for them to overcome 10 years of history saying they can't do it.
And that leads to the final provocative thought I have for you this week. We talk about these stats, bogey teams, venue curses, as if they are physical laws of nature. But they are largely psychological.
Right. They exist in the players' heads.
Exactly. In that Adelaide versus Bulldogs game, does the Bulldogs' knowledge that they usually beat these guys give them a mental edge that overrides the fact that they are currently playing terrible football? Or does the fact that they are 17th make the history completely irrelevant?
Does confidence come from the past or the present?
That's the question. Can you borrow confidence from a game you played 3 years ago to win a game today?
We are going to find out on Monday. It's going to be a fantastic round of AFT Dice. Thank you for walking us through the numbers.
My pleasure.
And to you listening, keep an eye on those venues. That's where the real story is this week. We'll see you for the next deep dive.